Good afternoon. We want to welcome all of you on behalf of Virginia Board for People with Disabilities, our Executive Director, Ms. Terry Morgan, and our training alumni. We'd like to welcome you to this session entitled Virginia's HCBS Waiver Programs, Where to Go, What to Know. It is our first statewide continuing education workshop session in this new state year, and we are so excited to be partnering with DMAS. To give you a little background very quickly about our training alumni, they are graduates of one of our two flagship training programs, either Partners in Policy Making training program or our Youth Leadership Academy, formerly known as the Youth Leadership Forum. The mission of the Alumni Development Program's training alumni is to provide these types of advocacy trainings and continuing education workshops that are focused specifically on the broader disability community throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. We want to thank all of our production team members because in order for us to facilitate these very large, exciting continuing education sessions, it takes a village. And so we first recognize our Executive Director, Ms. Terry Morgan, and our administrative team, who is currently comprised of Ms. Tara Bethea, who is the Board Administrative Specialist for Virginia Board, our communications team, Ms. Anita Ayers, who serves as the Communication and Information Manager. And of course, we have providing closed captioning today from Virginia Relay, Ms. Holland Poole. We'd also like to recognize Boyd-Knott Visual Communication, affectionately termed BBC, and Mr. Eli Red, who serves as our technology guru. And in order for us to process all of our budgetary needs, we partner with DAR's procurement team, and so we recognize them today. Serving as ASL interpreters for this session is Ms. Carrie Humphrey and Ms. Felicia Smith. You are seeing currently a poll survey. There will be a poll that is being offered to you now prior to the session beginning, and at the end of the session, there will be a feedback poll. We want to recognize our Director of Planning, Research, and Evaluation, who handles all of that and so much more, Ms. Nia Harrison, who serves as the Director. And of course, our Training and Alumni Development Programs team. We could not do any of this without Ms. Kelly Vanella, who serves as the Training Coordinator, and Ms. Christine Jermeyer, who serves as the Training and Alumni Development Programs Coordinator. And I am Dr. Penny Sweetenberg Lee. We need to hear from you, which is why we put the poll up 10 minutes to 12, because there's so many of you who have registered for this session. We evaluate events to identify the impact and to improve future events. Please know that the feedback is anonymous. And as I previously stated, there are two polls. This first one is called About You. And we simply want to understand who is here, who's in the room. And then the poll that will be at the end of this session is our session feedback. And it is important for us to hear from you because we want to know how we can provide this work better. If you are in need of an alternative format, please let us know in the chat box, and or you may email our Director of Planning, Research, and Evaluation, nia.harrison@vbpd.virginia.gov after the event. Today's agenda simply includes the welcome and purpose, which I am concluding momentarily, and then we're going to turn it over to our presenter. There will be a question and answer segment that will be facilitated by Christine Jermeyer, and then we will put the session feedback poll back up. Our Executive Director, Terry Morgan, will give closing comments, and then I'll come back and share with you some information regarding our next upcoming continuing education workshop session. It is my honor to present to some and introduce to others Mr. Jason Perkins, representing the Virginia Department of Medical Assistance Services, DMAS as we call it. He serves as the program manager for ADP-TA waiver operations. Jason Perkins has over 2 decades of experience supporting persons with developmental disabilities. He has worked as a case manager and support coordinator for a community service board in Southwestern Virginia, a behavioral consultant with an intermediate care facility for people with intellectual disabilities, a regional support specialist for the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services, and he has been currently with DMAS for over 5 years, serving as the program manager for ADP-TA waiver operations. He is a graduate of the University of Virginia with a Bachelor's of Art, and Radford University. He holds a Master of Social Work. Jason believes humor is good for the soul. He is a proud cat dad and will show pictures to anyone who asks. And he loves sharing stories of why he does this line of work. It is my honor to present to you Mr. Jason Perkins.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am going to share my screen. If someone on the call can verify that they can now see my screen, I will move forward.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, let me just say that it is an absolute honor to be here. I think this is a terrific way to end the week. My goal today, just so everyone knows, is to present to you all in very broad strokes general information about Virginia's home and community-based services waivers. The reason I say in broad strokes is I know there's different levels of experience and knowledge on this call. But if I can offer you one takeaway in advance of what I hope we can achieve, is I want everyone to be able to leave this call today knowing at least where to go to get your foot in the door, to know which door to walk through to get the process started. Because for me, that is the most important thing that we as a system can do, is to support you on getting to the right place. So let me start by sharing a story. As Dr. Penny very politely introduced me as I do believe humor is good for the soul, and I believe it's important to recognize that there is joy in what we do. So let me tell you a little bit about myself first. Yes, I am a graduate of the University of Virginia with a Bachelor's of Arts. But let me tell you what my Bachelor's of Arts degree is actually in, much to the panic of my parents at the time. When I went to undergraduate school a few years ago, I had every intention of going to law school. Now, why I wanted to go to law school, I do not know. I mean, look at me. I dress like an attorney. Maybe that was what was motivating me. I don't know. So I decided that I was going to study classics. So what is classics? It's Latin language, Greek language, and ancient Roman history. Now, that sounds very interesting because it was. I absolutely adored learning these ancient languages. I loved studying history. But that meant that when I graduated, I had a degree in Latin. What can I do with that? I changed my mind on law school. So the only other option I had was, if zombie Julius Caesar comes back from the grave in the apocalypse, I can translate for you all. I can tell zombie Julius Caesar our terms of surrender. That's the best I could do. During my undergraduate career, I was working part-time at a local community services board in far southwestern Virginia. Shout out to my old facility of Cumberland Mountain Community Services Board. I was working in the as a residential technician at the substance abuse clinic known as the Laurels. After I graduated, a job got posted for a case management position. I didn't even know what a case manager was, but I knew I needed a full-time job. So I applied for it. I was the only applicant. So my boss at the time had a decision to make. Do I hire this greenhorn who has a degree in Latin with no real experience and give him a chance? Or do I keep doing the job myself? So she made the brave decision to give me a shot. So in July of 2023, July of 2003, excuse me, I became a case manager supporting people with the label of a developmental disability. Now, back then, it was still referred to in the old terms of mental retardation / intellectual disabilities. I had no idea what I was doing. I had never worked or supported anyone with that label of a disability. The paperwork I was able to capture pretty quickly. I knew I could write a progress note. I could help complete a Medicaid application. I could complete an assessment. I could learn paperwork. I was good at that. But the struggle for me was, having never supported someone in that nature, I did not know what to do. I was overthinking. I would go out and meet the people that I was supporting and not know how to communicate or talk to them. They would walk up and ask for a hug or a handshake, and I wouldn't know what to do. So after a few months of doing it, I decided this isn't for me. I can do the paperwork, but this is just not a fit for me. I will be here for a year, and then I'll go on to law school. That's the only thing I knew what to do. Fortunately, I had some colleagues who were very supportive and invested in wanting to see me succeed. Two of them were two guys named Mike and Tim. Now, Mike and Tim and I had bonded over, to be very transparent, the conversations around could Batman defeat Superman if he had the proper equipment through DC Comics. That's what we bonded over. But they kept telling me, Jason, you are overthinking it. You can do this. Talk to someone you're supporting like you would talk to us. It's just people. We're all just people. Stop overthinking it. So finally, I decided to give it a shot. I was standing outside of our day support program at the time, and I was doing some routine case management visits with the people I was assigned to support, doing the standard script of, do you have everything you need? Is there anything I can do to help you? The standard yes, no binary questions, getting the same yes, no binary responses, not making any connections whatsoever. And one of the fellows that I supported, and I'll call him Joe to protect his identity, but Joe had been with our company for a long time. He had a label and diagnosis of Down syndrome. Wonderful fellow. Everyone loved Joe. And it happened that Joe was a professional wrestling fan. Now, why is that important? Because I, too, at the time, like many people in this world, was a hardcore professional wrestling fan. So I see Joe, and he's over here shooting some basketball and enjoying lunchtime. So I walk up to Joe, and I say, Joe, how are you today? And he kind of politely acknowledges me, like, oh, here's this guy again. What does he want? He's going to talk to me like I'm foolish, or he's going to ask me these binary questions. And I look over and I see Mike and Tim give me gentle persuasion. Like, you can do this. We're all just people. Remember that. So I said, well, hey, Joe, did you watch Monday Night Raw the other night? And he stops mid-hoop and looks at me and goes, yeah, I did. I said, did you see what happened? And we started talking about what happened on Monday Night Raw. And all of a sudden, it took about 3 or 4 minutes, I realized how much Joe and I had in common. How much we were more alike than we were different. And it had nothing to do with his label of a disability. And the more we talked, the more I started feeling comfortable. So we started having a broader conversation about wrestling. I was like, well, Joe, who is your favorite wrestler right now? And he looked at me and he said, Stone Cold. Now, for those of you who do not know wrestling history, this is important. That's Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was the leader of the WWF, World Wrestling Federation at the time. He was the big deal that everyone loved. I was a big fan of Stone Cold. I was always a fan of Ric Flair, to be honest, but I had no qualms with Stone Cold Steve Austin. So we start talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I was like, well, Joe, don't you love how Stone Cold Steve Austin wins his matches? And he goes, oh, yeah. I said, what is Stone Cold's finishing move? I hear my friends Mike and Tim screaming, no, 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 no. Steve Austin finished his matches with the move you see on your screen called the Stunner. Stone Cold is the bald fellow who takes the other fellow, which is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, by the way, over his shoulder and brings him down to the ground. What I didn't know was if by asking Joe to tell me about Steve Austin's finishing maneuver, that he would feel compelled to demonstrate it for me. So Mike and Tim unknowingly make me turn my head to see why they're yelling. So by the time I turn back around, Joe has summarily kicked me in the stomach and brought me down to the ground. Let me tell you all, for anyone who says wrestling is fake, that move hurts. That move works. He could have pinned me for a 3 count and I would not have gotten up. That being said, once the Tweety birds and the stars disappeared from my vision, I found myself laughing because that's exactly what my friends and I would have done when we were kids and younger in college talking about wrestling. Joe really was just like my friends back in college. Joe was really like the folks I enjoy talking to and spending time with every day in my non-work related life. It was the moment that I received the Stone Cold Stunner that I realized that I could indeed do this work, that I did indeed want to do this work. And from that point, I went on and got my graduate degree, and I stayed in this field of work. But it took someone giving me the Stone Cold Stunner to knock sense into me to realize and reinforce that indeed, people are just people. We're all different, but no less. And once I was able to see that as a greenhorn kid, my life has never been the same, and I'm better for it. So I always tell people it's important that we share our stories of why we do what we do. This is my story. I do this because Joe gave me the Stone Cold Stunner, and I could not be more grateful to Joe for it. So now let's jump into the meat and potatoes of what I want to talk to you about today. The Commonwealth of Virginia offers 4 separate waivers that we call HCBS, or Home and Community-Based Settings Services. What these services and supports are designed to do is to ensure that everyone, regardless of their label of a disability, are able to have a healthy, safe, and successful life and as an integrated an option as possible in their community. We have been working diligently for years, and we've had a lot of success in this state, moving away from an institutional model where we take people who are labeled as different and we put them in a setting with other people with the same label, and we keep them there out of the community. That's a horrible way to do things, and we have done so much great things to get away from that. When we try to define what that looks like for all 4 of these waivers, we kind of take the approach you see on your screen now. We try to think about a system where the services and supports that we provide to people are based upon their assessed needs, are fair and equitable to meet their needs, are person-centered, and you're going to hear that term a lot. Nothing about me without me. This is about the person. What do they need to be healthy, to be safe, and to be successful? Just like the same chances and opportunities that all of us have. We really focus on the community. When I say community, I'm talking about participation and engagement in the community, not presence. For years, we treated community presence as if that was enough, and it is not. Presence in the community means that you may still be living in an institutional setting, but once a week, you and your peers are loaded, and I use that term intentionally, loaded onto a van, and you may go out to an outing and you stay with your same peers with the same labels, and you walk around a public setting, a farmer's market, a mall, a movie theater, whatever it may be. You're present, but you're not engaged. You're not participating in the community. That's not what we mean when we say community focused. Community focused means you are part of your community to the extent that you want to be. That ties into person centered. Some of us are extroverts, some of us are introverts. The level of engagement is based upon what we want to have in our lives to be successful. And we want to make sure, and this is more important for us at the systemic level, that we are utilizing data to verify that what we are doing is working, both qualitative and quantitative data. Of those 4 waivers, the HCBS waivers, I want us to talk firstly about our developmental disability waivers. You all may hear a lot of people reference ADD or developmental disability waiver. That actually does not exist. It's a term that we all use colloquially, myself included, to refer to 3 separate waivers within our system. Each of these waivers have a lot in common, but they also were designed to do some specific things. The first waiver is the Building Independence Waiver. This waiver is designed to support adults who are 18 and over, who are either already living independently in their own apartment or their own private residence, or they're getting ready very soon to be living independently. This waiver offers some supports and services that are designed to ensure that someone can be successful in their own apartment with what we call independent living skills, some crisis if they need it, some day and employment opportunities. This is our smallest waiver. We continue to hope to see this waiver grow as we have more and more people getting a chance to live that independent life, but we still have a lot of folks who have not quite made it there. The next waiver is called the Family and Individual Supports, or the FIS waiver. This waiver is for individuals
Jason, I think you froze. Eli, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. Unfortunately, I cannot do anything to help his internet signal.
He's frozen though, is that right?
He appears to be frozen to me, Penny.
Thank you, Colleen.
When he comes back on, will you make sure that he knows where it was he left off? He was starting about the talk about the second waiver.
Okay, thank you.
He may be kept on talking and did not realize when he got cut out.
Right.
He also, I think, might be gone now.
Yeah, he's probably rebooting back in. Maybe
Yeah.
he recognized it. I was trying to dial him, but he has his phone off.
Dr. Penny, he's coming back on.
Okay. Welcome back, Jason. Can you hear us?
I can, and I apologize. I do not know what happened.
That's okay. You froze, but you were just beginning. So if you could start over with the second waiver.
Thank you. Yes, my computer decided that it wanted me to leave Zoom for whatever reason, and
Technology, they can't replace us.
absolutely. Let's reshare my screen here. If I don't, can someone please confirm that they can see my screen again, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Yes.
you very much. So I was getting ready to speak about the Family and Individual Supports Waiver, or the FIS waiver. Now, this waiver is designed to support individuals who are living with their families or friends, or also in their own homes. It includes those who need maybe some more complex medical or behavioral support, such as behavior consultation or nursing services. It's available to both adults and children. Now, for any of you who have been in the system for a while, you may recognize some of the similarities, what we used to refer to as the old IFDDS waiver back before 2016. This waiver, we actually evolved from that waiver. The third developmental disability waiver is the community living waiver. This waiver is what we call our most comprehensive waiver, in that it includes all of the services and supports that you would obtain through the FIS waiver, and almost all what you'd get under the BI waiver. But it also is the only waiver that includes what we call 24/7 supports. Our waiver will pay, if the need is present, for someone to live in what we refer to as a group home or a sponsored home. These settings are designed to provide someone who has a combination of medical, behavior, or miscellaneous needs that warrants 24/7 care. Our group homes and sponsored homes in the Commonwealth of Virginia are licensed through the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. I will share with everyone that these programs are highly monitored and are beautiful settings. I have seen many of these. And always, the reason I say this, it can seem a little paradoxical to say that we have 24/7 residential settings when we're trying to get away from institutional settings. These are not institutional settings. These are settings that are designed to support people where they're at in a home-like environment, but ensure they have that 24/7 safety and security they need to be successful. Again, I've been to several of these. I've often joked, but I also do mean it sincerely. I would live in some of these. I was like, I will come sleep here if you feed me. The food looks wonderful. I will come hang out, please. All three of these waivers do unique things, but the ultimate goal is to ensure that if someone would otherwise be institutionalized in what we call the Intermediate Care Facility for Individuals with Intellectual Disabilities, or ICF-IID, we love our alphabet soup. This is the alternative. They can avoid that institutional level of care by going into one of these waivers and receiving services and supports within them. So let's say that you have no previous knowledge or experience with these waivers, and you're trying to understand, either myself as a self-advocate or someone that I love has a label of a developmental disability, and I think they could benefit from these services and supports. What do I do? Where do I go? Because this is the most overwhelming, daunting part of it. You hear these great things from presenters that, we have all these amazing resources for you to tap into. But sometimes we forget to remind you of where you need to go to get started, because that's often the hardest part. If you or someone you love has the label of a disability and you are interested in pursuing one of these waivers, your first stop is your local community services board or behavioral health authority, depending upon where you live. Now, spoiler alert, at the end of my presentation, I will ensure that you have a website to go to, that if you do not know what your local community services board is, it will tell you where to go. It will tell you who to call, because there are 40 of these across the Commonwealth. They all do tremendous work. They have dedicated people who devote their lives to supporting people with developmental disabilities, substance use disorders, complex behavioral health needs, and crisis. But this is your first stop. Your local community services board is responsible for doing your initial intake and screening for eligibility for one of the developmental disability waivers. Now, what do I mean when I say eligibility for one of the waivers? In order to receive one of those 3 developmental disability waivers, first and foremost, you or the person you love must possess what we call a diagnosis of DD. Now, the diagnosis of DD is somewhat open, and I'm not going to go into all the nitty-gritty on our limited time together today to go through that, but I want to kind of give you some foundational knowledge. Developmental disability, which can encompass intellectual disability, is going to refer to a set of labeled diagnostics that refer to potential cognitive delays, educational delays, some physical impairments. It's really at the discretion of what your support team or your professional doctors have said to you. When you go to your community services board to do this initial step, one of the things that you can do to be prepared is to take with you everything you have, every piece of paper, every PDF, every Word document. I know many of you out there, just like me, you have kept these things because you never know when you're going to need them. Copies of old individual education plans or IEPs, copies of what we would call psychological assessments, psychiatric assessments, workups from your neurologist or your pediatrician. Take that beautiful folder that I guarantee most of you probably have somewhere, take it with you to that first appointment. You do not have to know for certain if what you have meets this criteria. When you go there, they will help you go through that information to understand what is here, what works, what doesn't work. What I'm trying to express is do not allow yourself to feel overwhelmed at the beginning stages. If I can get you here, that's the success. Once you're there, once you're in that door doing that eligibility screening with that community services board, and you have that material to share, they will walk you through what needs to happen next. So take everything you have. When you go to that first appointment, take identification material, photo ID, social security cards. If you already have Medicaid, your Medicaid card, they're going to need those things to support you. In addition to that label of a developmental disability, during that initial visit, they are going to complete with you what we call an eligibility survey. Now, what we use on our side of the system is called the VIDES, VIDES, or the Virginia Individual Developmental Eligibility Survey. It's a mouthful, just remember VIDES, VIDES. This is required for every person who wants to enter the waiver, as it is what we use to verify that they meet the functional criteria. If you or your loved one gets one of these developmental disability waivers, that VIDES will be updated every year once you are enrolled. The third one there is meet Medicaid financial eligibility. Some of you may already have Medicaid due to a variety of reasons. Some of you may not. If you do not currently have Virginia Medicaid, that is not a barrier for you to be screened for the waiver. You can go, and I'll talk to us about this in a moment, there is a waiting list for these waivers. You can go on the waiting list for one of these waivers, regardless of your current Medicaid status. I want to say that again because that is so important. Do not let the fear, oh, I don't currently have Medicaid, prevent you or your loved one from being screened. What happens if you are given the option to accept one of these waivers? At that point, you will submit a Medicaid application. There is a long-term screening or long-term care criteria that they will apply that may or may not grant you Medicaid eligibility. But that is determined after you have gotten in the door and if you have received one of these DD waivers. So please do not let that hold you back. We support a lot of persons who would not be eligible for Medicaid otherwise without one of the waivers. So please, please, please do not let that keep you from going into the door to get things started. On this, I do want to very briefly point out there is a waiting list for these particular waivers. First of all, if you've never watched Parks and Recreation, please do so. It is the best sitcom of all time. If any of you want to debate with me that The Office is better, I will listen, but I will not change my mind. But I will listen to your debate. For those of you who've never seen it, this is Andy Dwyer. This is Star-Lord from Marvel Universe before he was Star-Lord. But this is from Parks and Rec. In Virginia right now, we have what's called a statewide waiting list. We have approximately 20,000 enrollees into one of our 3 developmental disability waivers, but we still have 15,000 plus on the waiting list. Every year, our General Assembly, when they get together, they make a determination if we're going to be able to receive additional slots to provide services to more people.
No experience as a prosecutor.
The reason that I'm able to share this is this was wonderful news. During the last fiscal year, and now going into this current fiscal year, which runs July 1 to June 30th, our General Assembly allocated 3,440 new developmental disability waiver slots. Most of those, about 3,000 of them, were the family and individual supports, with the other 400 or so being the community living. This was unprecedented. The Virginia Board, along with the ARC and some other amazing groups, were at the core of advocating for this to happen. I had the honor and privilege of being here at the DMAS headquarters when the governor made this announcement. This was a major success, and it has been so crucial to ensuring people get access. And while this is wonderful, there are still a lot of people awaiting supports and services. But it is important to point out to people there is a waiting list. The waiting list for our waivers is needs-based, not time-based. What that means is when you go in to be screened for one of the waivers, you may get a waiver slot in a matter of weeks or months, and some folks have waited several years because it's based upon the urgency or the critical priority of your need at the time, not how long you have been on that waiting list. Your CSBs are the entry points for persons to be placed on that waiting list for future slots. The Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services spearheads these slot allocation processes. DBHDS is what we call the operational and policy authority for these waivers. Medicaid, or DMAS, is what we call the administrative. We're the money people. We get the money from the federal government. We collaborate with the federal government to make these things happen. But it's my amazing colleagues and friends at the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services who make this happen. They are the heroes. I just like talking to people and sharing these stories. They are the ones who will get you to where you need to be successful. And I cannot, if there's any of you on DBHDS on this call, thank you for the work you do every day, because they are the ones who do this. And again, at the end, Andy Dwyer for life. Please go watch Parks and Rec. Cannot stress that enough. Now let's move to a similar high-level overview of the 4th Home and Community-Based Settings waiver here in Virginia, and that is the Commonwealth Coordinated Care Plus, or CCC Plus waiver. Now, this waiver has a lot in common with the other 3 I've talked about, but with some key differences. First and foremost, this waiver is designed to support people who may or are at risk of going into an intermediate care facility / nursing facility. And that's important. Ours is intermediate care facility for individuals with an intellectual disability. Theirs is the ICF nursing facility. Now, what that means is this waiver by default is going to be more focused on complex medical needs, although it does provide supports around other related issues. The eligibility for this waiver is driven more by medical need, does not necessitate the label of a developmental disability. There are already over 55,000 people in this waiver in the Commonwealth, and there is no waiting list for this waiver. This waiver provides the HCBS care for individuals who would otherwise need care in a nursing facility or other specialized care medical facility. It supports all ages, again, does not have a waiting list. This waiver is primarily administered to people who are enrolled through your managed care organization. There are a handful of persons in this waiver who are not enrolled in a managed care organization, and I have some amazing colleagues here at DMAS who provide some frontline work. The reason that is crucial is if you're in one of the 3 developmental disability waivers, all of those waiver services are handled directly through Medicaid as what we call fee-for-service, or FFS. You don't have to try to remember that. Just know that they are not administered through a managed care organization, whereas the CC Plus waiver is. The CC Plus waiver does not offer all the same services. Again, most of their services are targeted more towards personal assistance, private duty nursing, some assistive technology, environmental modification. Our DD waivers also offer those as well as the CC Plus waiver, but those are the main parts of the CCC Plus waiver. Now, same thing. Either yourself or someone you love has a label of some kind of complex medical need, and you're thinking this could be a good fit for them. Same boat. Where do I go? How do I get my foot in the door to get that process started? And just like before, as a spoiler alert, I will be giving you a link to locate your local Department of Social Services if you need it. Your first stop to access this waiver is to request a screening through your local Department of Social Services. You're going to want to give them a call and explain what you're requesting and what you need. I try to tell folks, everyone uses their own language and terminology. Ask the person on the phone, I've heard about this CCC Plus waiver, or I would like to request a long-term care screening. They should know what you're talking about and be able to get you to the right place to get the process started. Once you've made that initial reach out, once you've made that initial contact, they will link you up with a community-based team who will meet with you and your loved one to complete an assessment, a screening. And that screening is what will determine if you meet the criteria for the CCC Plus waiver. If you meet the criteria, you do not go on a waiting list. You are enrolled into the waiver. You may need to complete a Medicaid application. The same rules apply here. If you do not currently have Medicaid, it is not a barrier to request the screening. You may be able to obtain Medicaid through the enrollment of the CCC Plus waiver. It's not a promise, but it is a possibility. But again, just like with the other waivers, please do not allow your anxiety, oh, I do not have Medicaid, to stop you from trying to see if this is a good fit for you or someone you love. The CCC Plus waiver does not mean you're excluded from one of the 3 DD waivers. We support people right now in the Commonwealth who are enrolled in enrolled in a CCC Plus waiver, getting some supports, while also on the waiting list to get one of the 3 developmental disability waivers. That happens. It is not excluded. You cannot be enrolled in more than one waiver at a time. If you're in the CCC Plus waiver and you're offered one of the 3 DD waivers, you have to leave the CCC Plus waiver and go into one of the DD waivers, or vice versa. But they are not mutually exclusive. We see a lot of people move between the waivers based upon their need. As a last pointer, if there's someone you're supporting or that you love or yourself, and you're currently hospitalized and you think this could be beneficial prior to discharge, you can also have a screening request to be completed by the discharge planner of a hospital before leaving. And many people also access the waiver in that method. So that's how you get in the door for the 4 waivers. Let me talk to you a little bit about what happens once you're involved in some of these waivers, and 2 of the critical roles of people who will be supporting you navigate a very complex system. If you're enrolled in one of the 3 developmental disability waivers in the Virginia, you, if you're a self-advocate or the person you love, will be assigned a support coordinator or case manager at the local community services board. It is a regulatory requirement that if you're enrolled in one of the developmental disability waivers, that you have to have a case manager or support coordinator. Those terms are interchangeable, meaning that regulatory-wise, we still use the term case manager. Most community services boards have adopted the term support coordinator, but it is the same thing. Now, I have the long, drawn-out definition on the slide. I'm not going to read that out to you. What I will say to you, as a former case manager and then coordinator of case management myself once upon a time, the case manager is the central hub of everything you're going to do in the waiver. That person is going to help you navigate, locate resources, services, supports that you need to be successful. They are going to offer you provider choice. They are going to facilitate conversations on at least an annual basis with the people who are supporting you to determine what you need to be successful in the next year. They're going to help drive the development of what we call the Person-Centered Service Plan, or PCISP. They are going to review the plans that are completed that are to support you from the providers. Their role is critical and crucial in the operations of the waiver. They are going to help facilitate the submissions of service authorization requests for these services. They are your one-stop shop. Case managers, support coordinators can be one of the most critical, important resources you can have at your disposal. Don't be afraid to ask them questions. Most good support coordinators that I know, if they don't know the answer, they'll reach out to someone at the state to find the answer for you. Again, my tremendous colleagues at DBHDS spend a great deal of time supporting and educating case managers and support coordinators on what something means. So that's what a support coordinator does. They are here to help you navigate this very, very complex system. They are going to come out and see you on a regular basis. Their need to come see you is based upon a variety of things. At minimum, we require them to lay eyes on the person they're supporting every 90 days. However, there are other times they may need to come see you every 30 days. They are here to help you. The other really important person in this, especially if you're in the CCC Plus waiver, is what we call a care coordinator. Now, if you're enrolled in a managed care organization, you're going to have an assigned care coordinator. Now, this person serves in a very similar role to what the support coordinator or case manager does. They're going to perform various roles, such as completing what we call the needs assessment. They're going to offer service coordination. They're going to help you locate providers. And when I say locate providers, what they tend to try to do is to help you navigate and locate providers that are what's called in-network with your managed care company. If you need a specific medical practitioner to help you, they are there to help you locate a practitioner in your network that can provide you the care you need to be successful. They're going to offer general monitoring and follow-up. If you do not know who your care coordinator is, I will provide you a link of where you can go find the phone numbers for the various health plans in Virginia. Call them and say, my name is so-and-so. I'm enrolled with the managed care company. I do not know who my care coordinator is. Can you tell me who that is? If you don't know who your care coordinator is, you need to find that person, because they're here to help you navigate this side of the system. I try to meet once a year at DMAS with all the care coordinators across the system in a Zoom training to provide them updated information about the waivers. They are a group of dedicated people who want to learn, who want to be here to support you and to ensure that you're healthy and safe and getting what you need to be successful. I mentioned earlier, there are a handful of people that if you're currently enrolled in CCC Plus waiver, but you do not have a managed care organization, odds are you're already directly working with folks directly at DMAS and our Office of Community Living to offer some of the support that you may need in the absence of a care coordinator. Again, it's a small number of people. I think it's less than 5,000 of the 55,000, but they are there. So that's the broad general overview of the waivers, where to go and what to know. What I wanted to do now is I've received some tremendous questions in advance. I want to kind of go through with you all as we move into some other topics. But I thought these were some terrific questions to kind of talk about broader issues. The first question, could you share any information on clients transitioning from EPSDT, PDN to HCBS waiver with PDN so there is no gap? First, let me talk about the alphabet soup tied into that sentence, because there's a lot of alphabet letters in there. EPSDT, early periodic screening, diagnosis, and treatment. EPSDT is a federally funded component of our Medicaid system that provides specific care for children and youth under the age of 21. It is not a waiver. You have to already be enrolled in Medicaid or be Medicaid eligible to access EPSDT. I say that because, and it is easy to get confused, people sometimes think that is a waiver, and it is not. PDN, private duty nursing. Private duty nursing is a service available under the CC Plus waiver, the FIS waiver, and the CL waiver, and it is a critical piece of EPSDT. Private duty nursing is basically ongoing daily nursing needs for someone who has complex medical issues. PDN is funded and supported for youth who meet the criteria under EPSDT. The problem is that if you are a youth getting private duty nursing from EPSDT and you're about to age out of that eligibility, it can sometimes create a challenge because, what do? I was getting this nursing. My loved one or myself is about to turn 21. I'm going to lose access to this. This is critical. I need this. And that's when a lot of times people will turn to our waivers as a viable alternative to continue that past 21. What I like to talk about here is to reinforce, don't wait to get in the door. That's why you hear me keep reinforcing, I want you in the door, I want you in the door. Again, DD waivers, time on the wait list is irrelevant. It's based upon critical or priority of need. But the quicker you can get on that list, even if you do not get a slot immediately, determinations of slot need can change literally every 24 hours if necessary. These are real-time dynamic processes. Just because you are considered a low priority or low need today doesn't mean you will not be a high need tomorrow. So if you can get in the door, get on the list, at minimum, get on that waiting list if necessary. And then if something's changing, you pick up the phone, you call your support coordinator and say, either myself or the person I love is about to age out of this service. This is critical. What do we do? If you're already on there, that saves you that step of going through the whole intake process, of making the appointment, of getting there. So I tell folks, if you want to try to avoid gaps in coverage and services, start early. For CCC Plus waiver, if you're coming up on that age transition, make that phone call to DSS in advance and go. I want to request a screening as soon as possible. My loved one's about to age out of this, and this is important to us. So I cannot offer you any one-stop method to guarantee that a gap wouldn't occur. But the sooner you get started, the sooner you get your foot in the door, the sooner you start to educate yourself on these things, the better off you will be to ensure that you have as a few interruptions and limitations as possible. Next question. Do you know where or how we can get waiver brochures or information sheets to give out to our APS or Adult Protective Service clients? Oh, yes, I will hook you up. Some of the websites I'm going to be providing for you all will take you directly to pages devoted from the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services and here at the Department of Medical Assistance Services. We have one-page FAQs. We have all kinds of training brochures, flyers, pamphlets, instruction booklets. We have devoted so much energy, and it's been worthwhile energy devotion to trying to create as much information as possible to give to you all in the community. And I hope to give you some links that will get you there for you to get what you need to share as needed. This is a great question. Why is supported living an incompatible service with EHBS? We have found many individuals with supported living wanting to use EHBS. Again, alphabet soup time. What is EHBS? That is a service specific to the developmental disability waivers known as electronic home-based services. And the reason I love this question is it gives me a chance to kind of briefly give you all some background on what's happened over the last 10 years with our waivers. On the DD side in particular, some of you may be aware, you may have heard through the grapevine that we have had some colleagues from the Department of Justice at the federal level here in Virginia for, about 12 years now. The Department of Justice came into Virginia in response to some concerns that Virginia was not honoring the Olmstead Act, which means that we were not giving people the opportunity to live in the community when it should be possible. People will often ask me, as someone who's worked now in the system for a long time, how do I feel about the Department of Justice? And to be honest, if I could say it in one word, it's gratitude. The Department of Justice gave us the framework and the motivation to change what needed to be changed. Change is hard. There's a classic joke that I always think about. You could look at a crowd of people right now and go, who in this room thinks that there needs to be changes in the system? Everyone's hand's going to go up and say, absolutely, I think there needs to be change. Your next question, all right, who here in this room thinks that they need to change? A lot fewer hands tend to go up. It's not because we don't want to reflect that we need to change, it's because we know that change is hard. And sometimes you need a catalyst for change. You need something to push you forward. That's what the DOJ did for the Commonwealth of Virginia. We don't do things because the DOJ makes us do it. We do it because we want to make the system better, and the DOJ gave us the framework to make that happen. So we did something called a redesign of services back in 2014, 15, 16. This was a very complicated process. Many of you on this call were probably a part of it. I see Terry Morgan's on camera right now. I know you were part of it, Terry. Part of that conversation was also developing some new services, redefining existing ones and making some new ones. And some of the new services that we made in Virginia, I want to give a plug to because I want to see them continue to grow every day. And one of them is electronic home-based services. What this service is designed to do is to provide a person enrolled in the DD waiver smart home technology to live an independent life. We've seen some of these things on television before. Alerts or alarms on appliances, on stoves, door closing mechanisms, all kinds of cool smart home technology that allows someone to be healthy and safe and be independent. It helps replace the need to have a physical person there all up in your business. Because that's what we sometimes forget about too. While it's wonderful that we offer 24/7 supports for people who need it, we offer in-home care for people who need it, we offer nursing for people who need it, we offer personal assistance for people who need it. Sometimes we want people to leave us alone. We don't want people off in our business 24/7. We just don't. I know I don't. Sometimes I want to go home. I want to say hello to my kitty cat. And again, as I said in my bio, if you want to see pictures of her, I'll show you pictures later. Just hit me up. I have all kinds of pictures on my phone. And I want to turn on something on Netflix, and I want to sit on my couch, tell my cat about my day, and be left alone. And I think most of you can relate to that. EHBS is designed to reduce the need for human presence in that setting so that we can use technology to provide the supports you need without having to have a physical person present. It's a tremendous service. To this question specifically, the reason that we had to deem it incompatible, supported living is also a 24/7 service, just like group home or sponsored home. It is a slightly different model. It does not require 24/7 what we call on-site staff. Some folks in supported living may live in an apartment style arrangement where they have a phone number they can call for staff to come out immediately to provide them care if they need it, but the staff may not be there full time. The service, however, is reimbursed on what we call a daily or per diem schedule. That means that the provider of that service who's supporting that person gets one flat rate for the day of service. There's no hours. You get one flat amount for the day. Because of that structure, we were unable to build electronic home-based services to be compatible with it. If you're in a 24/7 structured setting, you cannot access electronic home-based services. That's the only reason they're incompatible. But I understand why the question was asked, and it's a good question. Some other really key stuff I want to point out to you that are new. Community Guide. Community Guide services in our waivers are designed to give people support in accessing their community, finding resources in their community. We actually have a subset called Community Housing Guide that if you're someone that, I live at home with mom and dad, and I like it here, but I wouldn't mind living on my own one day. I want to find an apartment. Community Housing Guide could perhaps help you try to find an apartment that meets your needs. We have something called benefits planning. This helps you navigate the very complex world of managing all the different components of what it means to be eligible for Medicaid when it comes to working. If you want to go get a job and start earning some income, how is that going to impact your Medicaid benefits? How do I need to plan accordingly so that I don't run the risk of losing Medicaid eligibility because I'm trying to work? There's so many, and again, I will provide you links because I could literally spend the next 3 days walking you through all the services, and I won't do that to you. But these are just some examples of some new service that we have rolled out. I would like information on transitioning from the Family and Individual Supports Waiver to the Community Living Waiver. As I put here, this is one of the most crucial elements of our system on the DD side, so I'm really glad you asked. The Family and Individual Supports Waiver offers everything that a person we have identified to be successful, except for those 24/7 options. The goal of that is that most people who are receiving a waiver are going to need at most the FIS waiver. Again, we do not consider 24/7 to be an institutional setting, but it is a more restrictive setting, just by default. By definition, if you are living in a 24/7 setting, that we classify that as being more restrictive than if you're living in your own apartment or you're living with mom and dad in the community in your own private home. So we want someone to be able to be supported to the best of their ability to be successful using the FIS waiver services, using things like in-home residential, personal assistance, assistive technology, day services, employment services, and the like. But sometimes people need more, and that's completely okay. It is. When that happens, let's say, and I will give an example. There is someone who has complex needs, but mom and dad have been their caretakers, been devoted. They're using the FIS waiver to get services and supports for their child. And this is great. It's a great arrangement, but life happens. Mom or dad have a medical emergency and they're no longer able to help provide care for their child, their adult child. As much as it's hard for them to get there, they recognize my loved one probably needs to go somewhere they can get the same level of care we were providing because we can't do it right now. So they work with their support coordinator and they find a group home that's nearby, it's in the community, that says, yes, we have a bed here. We think your adult son's a great fit. Come take a tour. We'll show it to you. We'll talk about what we can do. and they said, this is where we want our son to be. It's not far from us. He'll get the same care we were able to provide that we can't do now. But you had the FIS waiver. So what do? Your support coordinator can help you request through what we call the reserved slot process. The reserved slot process, a community living waiver. That is submitted directly to the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. They will review your request and they will make a determination if that is the right move for you. They will either approve or deny that request. If it's approved, they will work with you and your loved one to transition to that new setting. They'll do what we call a swapping of the slot. They'll enroll that person in the community living slot, and everything will proceed as normal. If it's denied, you will receive appeal rights. That's important to know. Now, I know that sounds overwhelming, because it is. It's overwhelming. It's often done in time of crisis. That's why I stress that your support coordinator is there to help you with that. Again, never feel alone. It's easy to feel alone. When you are faced with these challenges, call your support coordinator. Email or call me. Call people you've met at DBHDS. You do what you have to do to be supportive of the person you love, but do not feel alone. We are here to help you navigate. This is a good example of it. Folks at DBHDS are accustomed to this. We deal with this a lot as a state. They will help you work through this process. Your CSB case man will help you walk through this process. This is critical to us. We need people to understand and access this option, because I want you to trust our system. But for me to ask you to trust our system, and I say to you, we are going to offer your son an FIS slot because you don't want him to go into a group home today. And you're like, well, maybe in 5 years he'll need a group home. You need to have confidence in our system that if that time comes, your son is not closed out of that option. So it's important that you understand how to do this, because again, if I want you to trust us as a system, I have to give you options to work through it. And this is why we designed this process. Just so you know, the process can go the other way too. If you are someone who's currently enrolled in a community living slot and you've decided, I don't need this slot, I can be supported with a family and individual support slot, you can request to go into an FIS slot, and that opens up that CL slot for someone else to access. It can go either direction based upon the need. Next question. Greetings. I'm looking for information for my 22-year-old son, other family members to pass on to those in the community. Again, I will be giving you links to get as much as you can to share with people. For anyone on this call who wants to do this, you are just someone who's invested in helping people understand and navigate. Call me, whatever I can do to support you. The reason I feel passionately about this question, it's easy for someone like me who's done this for years to stand up in front of you all right now and talk about how great the system is. People with lived experience are the backbone of what we do. And I know I'm preaching to the choir when I speak to the Virginia Board for People with Disabilities. But people with lived experiences, families with lived experiences are the cornerstone to this system. You know where the people are. You know the questions they're going to ask. You know how they are feeling. So anything that I can give to you to make you feel more empowered and confident in having that conversation with other people, I will do it. I am interested in educating myself and the agency regarding the changes. As I said before, again, I want to provide everything I can to everyone on this call as often as I can. But also know, if you represent a specific agency, a social service department, a SEAL, another state agency, a CSB, a provider, a health department, you name it, folks at DMAS and folks at DBHDS are happy and willing to have one-on-one or one-on-team sessions. If you cannot tell, I will talk all day long. I will talk to a door if I thought the door would talk back to me. There's some other folks I've seen pop on this call from DBHDS who I won't call them out by name, but I think I saw Renita Clemens pop on here. She's just like me. She'll talk to you all day long. We are here. We want to come talk to you. We want to come give you the information that you need to share with people so that they feel prepared. Why do you have so much paperwork for this process of getting the waiver? This question is so critical because, again, to be transparent, oftentimes we at the state take this for granted. Everything that we ask to be completed, we developed it with a specific intent in mind. I will say that. We don't try to make forms. We don't try to create paperwork to make it more difficult. We have created these things because of something we're trying to measure for data purposes or to ensure quality or to ensure health and safety. But again, it's easy for me to say that. It's easy for me to say to you that we had good intentions creating it. It doesn't make it any less overwhelming. It doesn't make it any less burdensome. What I will say is when it comes to your paperwork, because yes, the screenings, for example, the UAI that you're going to undergo for a CC Plus waiver is a long, big assessment. The waiver documentation can be excessive. The meetings can last hours sometimes. Everyone involved in those have good intentions. They want what's best for the person in that room, including you. But again, do not feel alone with the burden of the paperwork. If you need help completing parts of the paperwork, call us. Call your support coordinator. Call your care coordinator. Call DBHDS. If you don't understand something, true story. I've had folks reach out to me, Mr. Perkins, which, by the way, if you reach out to me, please call me Jason. Mr. Perkins was my 9th grade earth science teacher, and I did not like him. He was not related to me, and I did not like him. Just call me Jason. Jason, I'm looking at this form, and they want me to complete this DMAS ... What does this mean? And I'll pull up and I'll go like, I don't know what this form is either. I'll be darned. That's because there's so many of them. So you're not alone. Now, some resources I want to walk you through. I'm not going to click on all of these links, but I want to tell you what these links are. And I'm assuming, Dr. P, we give a copy of this PowerPoint to the audience. They'll get a copy of this, correct?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. And I will promise, I verified these links work before I put them in here, because that's important. The first link I want to provide you is the My Life, My Community page. This website, which is devoted to DD waivers primarily, was developed by the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. It is a one-stop shop for most everything you need to know about the waivers. When you get on there, take some time, familiarize yourself with this website. You will see different links walking you through different options for what you can access. One of the things you can access on that site, and I will provide this as a separate attachment, Dr. Pinford, to send out for the group, is what's called the Navigating the DD Waiver Handbook. It is a fairly long document, but it is a very detailed and comprehensive document that will walk you through what the whole process looks like from start to finish. It will walk you through the different criteria and eligibility pieces, the waiting list. It will walk you through the services and the supports available. When I tell families, get you a copy of that, download it to your iPad, get you a printed copy. Don't try to read it all at once. Read a couple of pages every day. Pretend like you're in college again, you're in high school again. Highlight, take some notes. Pick out questions you want to ask. We have tried to make it as clear as we can, but there's still things that will probably require clarification. Walk through that handbook, familiarize yourself with it. It will give you a lot of the tools you need to understand how to navigate the DD waivers in particular. Community Service Board or Behavioral Health Authority Directory. This website where I was referencing earlier, if you are wanting to get screened for the DD waivers and you do not know where to go here, enter your address, and it will tell you which CSB you need to contact. And that's the biggest hurdle. Once you've got the name of that CSB and you've got their phone number, when you reach out, you will be able to get to where you need to go. Let them know, I want to be screened or I want to be assessed for the DD waiver. If the first person you talk to does not know what you're talking about, don't give up. Call back and go, it's me again. I want the DD waiver. If that doesn't work, call back and do it again. And if that doesn't work, call me and I'll help. But CSBs are familiar with this. They get these calls every day. Most all CSBs have an intake specialist or an intake department that will help you get this set up. But this is where you need to go to put your address in to find out where I need to go to get that first step. Your local DSS directory. Just like with the DD waivers, this is for your CCC Plus waiver. If you do not know who your local DSS agency is or what their phone number is or where they're located, go here, enter your address, and it will show you where you need to go and who you need to call to get this set up. So exactly the same process. If you want to be interested in screening for the CCC Plus waiver, this is where you want to go to get that set up. The Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. I again cannot undersell the critical nature that they play in this process. The team at DBHDS is devoted to improving the lives of every Virginian with a label of a disability. Hard stop. If you go to this link, this page is devoted specifically to the waiver services located within our system. You can research and understand the different elements, the different contacts you may need to have. DBHDS is divided into 6 specific teams under the waiver services. Each team does something slightly different. You have a team devoted to medical and support, which is the Office of Integrated Health. You have a team devoted to behavioral support. You have a team devoted to ICF, IID, and community assessments. You have a team devoted to provider development. And you have a team devoted to just waiver operations in general, which includes service authorizations and the whole gamut. I know most of these people. I've worked with most of these people. I have full faith in these people. Use these people. They want you to contact them. They love hearing from people. The Department of Medical Assistance Services. Now, this page will take you to our page here at DMAS that is devoted to the waivers. Now, I will tell you all, most things DD waiver related, your best bet is to go to DBHDS first. I will happily help in any way that I can, so will my colleagues here at DMAS. But DBHDS staff are in the field every day doing this. Now, on the CCC Plus side, our staff here at DMAS are able to be more engaged with some of those questions. When you go to this website, you will also locate our different email boxes. We have email boxes devoted to different elements of our CCC Plus waiver. One box devoted to questions around what we call consumer direction. One box devoted to people who may have some concerns around their managed health care plans. One box devoted to just our straight, what we call the classic CCC Plus waiver. These boxes are monitored every day by devoted staff. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask questions. I did put the link for that handbook directly on the slide, on the PowerPoint, but I will put a copy of it I'll send out to Dr. Penny for distribution. One very key element that a lot of you who've been in the system for a while are probably familiar with is we do have a lot of developing processes around something called legally responsible individual. In our waiver system, before the pandemic. So let's go back a couple of years before the dark times of being trapped in our house for several years. If you were the parent of a minor child or the spouse, husband, wife, of someone who had a label of a disability or a complex medical need, you could not be paid to provide support to that person. It was against federal rules. The pandemic permitted us to ensure flexibility based upon not having workers to go to the homes that permitted legally responsible individuals, again, that's parents of minor children and spouses of people with the labels of disability, to provide personal assistance, which is a service available under the CC Plus waiver, the FIS waiver, and the CL waiver. They could provide it and be reimbursed for it. It was successful. The General Assembly mandated that become a permanent addition to our options within the waiver. We submitted our paperwork and CMS has approved it. So now, under those 3 waivers, for the specific service of personal assistance, a legally responsible individual, if the criteria is met, can provide that service. There's a lot of nuances to it. I highly encourage folks to go to this website, check it out. This website will walk you through the different pieces and requirements of it. There are certain elements that are different, certain allowable activities versus non-allowable activities that are outlined here. But it was a huge, huge success for the Commonwealth to permit this to become a permanent thing, as it did allow a lot of folks to be able to provide the care they've been providing, but be reimbursed for it as well. Another major topic that unfortunately I really have no information to share at this time, but I can provide you some information for resources, is the overarching question of what's going on federal versus state with pending changes to Medicaid. The short answer is I do not know. We are planning for multiple contingencies. We will continue to plan. We will get information out as we have it. What I can tell you is I can provide you the link here on this website to the Emergency Committee on the Impacts of Federal Workforce and Funding Reductions. This is a public website as part of our General Assembly. This group has been receiving presentations and assessing information from all different elements of the state on what could be potential impacts from federal changes. I use this website to keep up to date, and I would encourage you all to check this website out. I picked one. I think this is the link for the most recent meeting in August. I think there's been one in September, but I didn't have the link to that one. But this is the August meeting. But on this website, you can access the different meetings. This is a great resource to kind of keep up to speed. I will tell you, we are not attempting to not share information. It is really a to be determined. We are game planning to the best of our ability. We will share information as we have it. Unfortunately, there's just not much that I have to share at this point. That is, in broad strokes, the general components of the waivers. I did not go into detail on services. The Navigating the Handbook can provide you more insight into that. That is not my kitty cat, by the way. That's just one I thought was very cute on the internet. Now, what can I say? I wanted to leave as much time as I could to answer questions, to be here to, and I will, if I don't know an answer, I will try to take it back and get feedback and information for you. So that's my presentation. I am ready for additional questions.
Thank you, Jason. Excellent presentation. Let me say to all of you, we have seen a number of questions come in through the chat. We will make every effort to answer as many as possible. However, we will take your questions, those that we don't get to, and we will send them to Jason, and then he will provide his responses, and we will get them out to all of you who are registered today. Christine, I yield to you.
Yes, Dr. Penny. Thank you very much, Jason, for that wonderful presentation. Very in depth. We have several questions. I'm going to give them to you as quick as I can. Are these waivers exclusively for people with a diagnosis of a developmental disability prior to age 18?
Great question. The answer is no. And this is all wonderful Virginia code language. In Virginia, because we don't make anything simple in Virginia, we still have the label of intellectual disability, which falls under the broader scope of developmental disability. And this is more lingo for community services boards. For a person to have a valid diagnosis of intellectual disability, they must have a verified age of onset prior to 18. To have a valid diagnosis of developmental disability, it must be prior to the age of 22. So what I tell folks is when you go in to seek this out, don't get hung up on the 18 versus 22. Focus on the 22. Focus on the 22. But again, this is more at the CSB level. When they go to bill me at Medicaid for case management, what the age might drive that. So don't get hung up on the age. It's really more about the age of onset prior to 22 for developmental disability.
Okay, great. The next question is, how do you find out what priority level you're on?
A great question. When you go in for your initial assessment, and if you are deemed to meet the criteria, you should be told then at that initial visit what priority you are going to be, whether it be a priority 1, a priority 2, or a priority 3. And for everyone on the call, just so you know what that means, as an overarching theme, the priorities are based upon the time, how quickly you're going to need it. If you're going to need services with less than 1 year, priority 1, 5 years or less, priority 2, 5 years or more, priority 3. They should tell you that initial visit where you fall. I want to hit home one more point real quick on that though. Remember I said earlier that it can change within 24 hours. That's very true. You may go in today for an assessment with your local community services board, and it's been said you're a priority 3 for the reasons of the assessment. You have a major life-changing event tonight. Call your community services board tomorrow and say, this has happened to us. What does this mean? You can request a reassessment of your priority whenever you need it. You do not have to wait for an annual meeting. You do not have to wait for a quarterly call. Pick up that phone, do what you do best as the advocate for the person that you love or advocacy for yourself, and say, this has happened. What does this mean for us?
Okay, great. The next question, if a person relocates to Virginia from another state and was receiving comparable waiver-based services in the other state, is there a waiver slot accommodation given so services are not disrupted for them?
Unfortunately, no. Waiver services do not transfer from state to state. Now, that being said, it's like I mentioned earlier, if you are in the process of relocating, the earlier the better to start reaching out and trying to locate. I'm going to be moving to South Boston, Virginia on this date. So I need to find out who my CSB is going to be so I can get that appointment set up so I can get screened for the waivers. Or I need to find who my local my social services is and who's going to do that screening. But unfortunately, there is no logistical way to transfer waiver services. You have to start over. We try to mitigate to the best of our ability when that happens. I will say if you are in that position now, you're going to move to Virginia, in addition to reaching out to your local people, it's also helpful to contact folks at DBHDS or Medicaid to get some support. We will try to help you navigate that because we recognize what a big deal that can be to do that. But we do not have any way. It's a funding issue from the federal level. We have no way to transfer waiver services from one state to the other.
Okay. Is there such a thing as an emergency waiver?
Yes, there we have what's called an emergency criteria for the 3 DD waivers. You would coordinate through your case manager support coordinator at your local CSB to request that. But yes, there is the opportunity if there is a critical situation that has occurred, we have specific criteria for that. But you can request an emergency waiver slot.
Okay. After screening for Medicaid, what would exclude someone from obtaining the waiver?
That's tough because it's going to be very case specific. All I can say is this. If you've been deemed eligible for Medicaid based upon your functional and diagnostic criteria, you have a label of a DDID on you, you have the VIDES has been completed successfully, but you did not have Medicaid. You go in to be screened for Medicaid and something has happened, you're deemed ineligible for Medicaid. That's done at your local DSS office, and it's based upon the formula they have to apply. So unfortunately, I can't, that would be very dependent on the situation. What I would say is it's important to ask what happened. It's important to get the details of why you were not approved. Because if you are not approved for Medicaid, you will not be able to be enrolled in the slot. You have to be deemed Medicaid eligible to be enrolled in the slot.
Okay, that's good to know, that because there's a second question similar. If CCC plus waiver automatically qualifies you for Medicaid if you were rejected in the past, will the CCC plus waiver automatically qualify you for Medicaid?
No, but what happens, and again, this is why it's so critical. You may have been excluded from Medicaid in the past due to how it was assessed. When you are being screened for waiver, there is a separate criteria applied at the DSS office for your Medicaid eligibility. And it's based upon that criteria that could impact your Medicaid eligibility. I'm not comfortable going to detail. If you want more detail on that, I can hook you up with the right people here at Medicaid to walk you through that. I know just enough to be dangerous on that part. But there is a separate LTSS criteria applied if you're being screened for the waiver. So it is possible that you were declined before, but you could get Medicaid as part of a waiver screening.
Okay. If one is covered under the CCC plus, but not with a managed care organization, are they assigned to anyone from the Office of Community Living at DMAS?
Not at this time, but it's something they're working on. One of the things that the Office of Community Living and Nicole Martin's team has been doing is trying to expand their team in order to allow there to be some specific designated persons outside of a generic email box to reach out to. They have hired some people who are starting to do that. They've done some restructuring. So hopefully more on that to come later. For now, if you have a specific question, do not hesitate to use that email box that's on the website for CCC Plus waiver. They will get back to you. But right now, there is not a dedicated person, but they are looking into that.
Okay, great. I believe you answered this question live about, is there a separate eligibility criteria for children under CCC plus, and can a person in the home provide the services?
Oh, well, as far as a separate criteria, no, it's the screening is the screening for the CCC Plus waiver. But that's a great question. It goes back to the legally responsible individual. If you are a parent of a minor child and they have CCC Plus waiver, you may have the opportunity, based upon the assessment process and the conversation, to provide personal care to your minor child. But again, it has to be assessed. It has to go through the authorization process, but it is possible.
Okay. And I have a question. How about those with brain injury?
Oh, that speaks to my heart. Oh, goodness. And I wish Ann Bevan were here because she would talk all day about this. Virginia has implemented a TBI case management program that Ann Bevan has been leading the charge on. We do not have a TBI waiver. It was something we would like to have seen happen. It did not. Now, someone with a traumatic brain injury, a TBI or an ABI, could meet criteria for developmental disability if the age of onset is before 22. If the age of onset was after 22, they can access the TBI case management services that we've rolled out in Virginia. There is a state plan amendment's been approved. I can provide that to you all. There is an email box dedicated to that. I will provide to you, Dr. Penny, to distribute to the group. It's a great resource. There are some services available for TBI. I think DARS does some of that currently, but I'm not an expert on it. But unfortunately, we do not have a TBI waiver. But you could get DD waiver if you had age of onset prior to 22.
Okay, very good. We have a question, information on caregivers for children with autism. I'm a grandmother of a child with autism who gets 32 hours a week therapy. And I believe you dropped some of the resources.
Yeah.
That'll be included in the PowerPoint.
On that, and it could be, and there's different kinds of therapy. It could be that your child's receiving applied behavior analysis through, again, that EPSTT. There's personal assistance, potential other services. They also could already be enrolled in one of the waivers. Autism as a general diagnosis will fall under developmental disability. Our waivers, all four of our waivers support persons who have a label of autism. We continue to try to evolve and make some more nuanced developments to support people with autism. But any of the waivers could support someone with a label of autism on their diagnostic spectrum.
Okay, thank you. The next statement and question, several families have tried to move from FIS to CL, and the CSB discourages them, saying they won't facilitate that. Over and over, these families ask, CSB refuses. Do you have a response to this?
Yes, I do. If you are dealing with a scenario where you as a family or self-advocate are requesting something from the state, you are requesting that there is a CL request. If the Community Services Board is saying to you the answer is no, that is an adverse action that should result in appeal rights. You have a right to request things through the system. So if you are being told no by the Community Services Board, and we do, I will say, we support the Community Services Boards to be the front line piece of this. They can look at someone and go, that is not appropriate. If that occurs, though, appeal rights should be generated for you to appeal that decision. That is critical. So if you were told no, I would encourage your next question to be, okay, where is my appeal rights? If you hit any barriers with that, please contact us at the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services or at Medicaid directly to help facilitate that conversation. Because yes, a CSB may look at you and say that is not an option, that it is an adverse action against the request you have made, and that should result in appeal rights.
Great. There's a clarifying question. Is CCC Plus, it's not exclusive to children, is that correct?
Correct. It is from birth. This is an old school term, birth to death. Any age range can be eligible for CCC Plus waiver.
Okay, great. Why is genetic testing not accepted as proof of intellectual disability?
I would have to see more details. That's a good question. The specific requirements to meet the definitional code of developmental intellectual disabilities based upon multiple factors, not just a cognitive delay, but we call it adaptive behavioral delay, etc. It really comes down to what is contained within the assessment information presented at the time of the screening. What I would say is if you as someone went in trying to be assessed for one of these waivers and you were told this documentation is not sufficient, DBHDS is there to provide you some guidance and resources, as is DMAS, to help you understand what needs to happen to get you there. It could be that you need to get additional testing completed. It could mean that you have other things you could have provided you didn't think to provide. But it's difficult to give you a clear answer that's seeing the contents of the assessment. But that's a great question.
Okay. The next question, since independent living is the ultimate goal for someone on the IDDD waiver, if the person works full-time, he or she gets kicked out due to income limits, how would these fit? Wondering how these fit in.
Can you read that one more time?
Since independent living is the ultimate goal,
right,
for someone on the IDDD waiver, if the person works full-time and he or she gets kicked out due to income limits, how would this fit in?
Oh, great question. I was hoping you wouldn't ask that question. No, seriously, great question. This is kind of those things where it's like a double-edged sword. Like we're encouraging this, but if you do it too well, we're going to punish you for doing it too well. Absolutely. What I will say is there's Medicaid Works. It's something I would encourage you to also be looking into. Now, Medicaid Works is not a waiver, but Medicaid Works would allow someone to be working in gainful employment with an ABLE account established, and then would allow them to exceed the standard allotments for Medicaid, still maintain eligibility, while receiving a small package of services through the managed care company, like personal assistance. That's a viable option. I will say for anyone on this call, it's important for you to know this. If that's something you're interested in, there is a grace period on this. This is something that I am excited about. If you're in that situation where you are successful and you're independent living, you're working and you're making money and you're now faced with this barrier and you want to look at Medicaid Works. Medicaid Works permits you a 180-day grace period to return to the waiver if you so choose. Meaning that I want to try this. I reach out to my case manager, support coordinator. I reach out to my social service department. I start doing some research on this. I choose to leave the waiver to go into Medicaid Works because it allows me to go past the income limit. I set up my ABLE savings account. I've done this for a few months. It's not working. I need to go back to the services I was receiving and maybe adjust my work. As long as you make that decision within 180 days, 6 months, you are guaranteed to go back into the same type of waiver that you were in, FIS, CL, or BI, with no questions asked. It is part of our emergency slot criteria. So that is a viable option to keep in mind. I saw someone put in the chat, Teresa. Oh, thank you, Teresa. And I will say, on the community end, there is ongoing conversation with legislation about other options around that. But that's the best option I can provide to you as a Medicaid rep, is we do have Medicaid Works as a viable option that can be beneficial.
Okay, wonderful. The next question, does being involved with other agencies such as DSS, foster care, or CSA parental agreements impact a child's ability to access a waiver?
Oh, great. Really good question. Short answer is yes. It's like everything is, it's tricky, but its short answer is yes. How we determine prioritization, again, goes back to how quickly you're going to need the supports. And one of the things that we take into consideration when we discuss that, are you going to need help in less than 1 year, 1 to 5 years, or 5 years or longer? We will be taking into account what you are already eligible for or what you're currently receiving. If you are a youth and you are receiving supports through the Comprehensive Services Act or CSA through your local FAPT, if you're receiving supports through IDEA funding options or other things, and those services that are being provided to you are meeting your need, and that's the key element. Is it meeting your need for you to be healthy, safe, and successful? Then it could be you're 12 years old. You're getting some support through your local CSA and your FAPT to do some services. Right now, that seems to be meeting the need. But you know that when the child ages out of CSA criteria, they're going to have some dire need. We might assess that person as priority 3 because they will not need that support for 5 years or longer down the road. That's based upon an important conversation between the individual, the family member, the folks working with the local organizations, IDEA, CSA, FAP, the whole 9 yards, to determine if what is being provided is fully and actively meeting the needs of the person, or is it just partially meeting the needs of the person? That's the critical question.
Okay, and we have 2 follow-ups to that. Does it impact your priority level, which I think you may have just answered? And does contact with law enforcement also increase priority level?
Oh, that's a good question, Teresa, about the law enforcement. As far as the specific contact with law enforcement, there is no, I wouldn't say that specific title, you have been engaged with law enforcement, could increase it. But what that usually is reflective of is a person experiencing increased utilization of crisis-related services that could include interactions with law enforcement. You know, law enforcement often has to be involved with an ECO, emergency custody order, and temporary detention order, which can be very traumatic for anyone, regardless of the label of a disability. If you are supporting someone who's experiencing increased utilization of those kinds of services, those kind of increased impacts, it could very much impact their priority level. It's important to explain that and have that conversation with the support coordinator or case manager about what's going on. So it's not so much that they're having increased contact with a crisis worker or a police office or even increased access to the emergency department. It's, what does this mean? Why are you having this increased access?
Okay. The next question, is there a financial criteria for a spouse to be approved to receive any type of waiver or financial assistance to care for their husband who is severely disabled?
Oh, potentially. If your spouse, if your loved one is enrolled in one of the waivers, CCC Plus waiver or one of the 3 developmental disability waivers, if they're enrolled in one of those waivers, again, you as a spouse would be classified as a legally responsible individual, meaning you may be eligible to be reimbursed to provide personal assistance to your spouse. Again, you would need to go through the assessment process, the planning process, and the authorization process to determine that. But yes, that is a viable option if your loved one is enrolled in one of the waivers. I do want to provide some clarity on that because this is very confusing. If you have a child receiving services strictly through EPSDT, not through one of the waivers, EPSDT does not permit legally responsible individuals to be paid to provide care. That is not part of the CMS approval. I say because it is very confusing because families will be like, well, I'm getting my son's getting personal care, my daughter's getting personal care. Why am I not eligible to do this? And it usually is because your child is getting personal care not through the waiver, but through the early periodic screening, diagnosis, and treatment program. That because that's a federal program built into our state system, it is not eligible for LRI reimbursement. So just to put that out there, if you hit that kind of roadblock, that might be a question to ask. What's the funding source for the personal care? But yes, that's the spouse question. Yes.
Okay, great.
We have time for one final question.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Penny. For a newly diagnosed parent, having to navigate all of this is going to be quite overwhelming. Do we have some kind of flow chart to help them apply for these services and what they need to complete their application?
Oh, it's a great question. And what I would encourage, yes, we have of the resources I was providing on the My Life, My Community and on the DBHDS website. Go there. We have various tools to walk you through that. That navigating the DD waiver workbook I mentioned earlier, I highly encourage, especially if you are someone new to Virginia, you are supporting someone with a developmental disability or a complex medical issue, print that handbook off. Before you go to bed at night, read 5 pages. We walk through the handbook what needs to happen, what the steps are, where you need to go. I hope you find it helpful. Again, a lot of work went into that. And thank you. I see Christine. Yeah, there's the link for. Thank you, Christine. You put the link. You put the link right there for us, but it's in the PowerPoint as well. That's a great handbook. Please use it. And if you need any more, again, jason.perkins@dmas.virginia.gov. Email me. If I don't know the answer, I promise I only make up half my answers. I try to be honest with the other half. I will help you any way I can.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Jason, you have been outstanding. Christine, approximately how many questions you think we have unanswered at the moment? Quite a few?
Not very many.
Okay.
We tackled.
So we'll be sending Jason those remaining questions, and he will get them back to us, and we'll get them to you. Let me just reiterate that yes, we will be providing a recording of this session. We want to let all of you know that our communications manager, Anita Ayers, is live streaming currently on our Facebook page. So you can tell all of your other family members, colleagues, and friends that they can go to Virginia Board's Facebook page to see this entire session. In addition to that, following this session, Anita will be uploading it to our new agency YouTube page. So we are very excited that you can get this recording or have access to it through our Facebook as well as YouTube. And certainly we will be sending the PowerPoint as well as the recording to all registered voters. I want to thank Jason again. This is a massive hot topic, And you have done a great job in incorporating all the questions that came in through the registration, as well as just sharing your knowledge. I am always inspired because I love to learn, and I've learned more about these 4 different waivers than I have over the last 10 years. So I thank you so very much for that. I also want to shout out to our alumni. We have lots of our training alumni. These are graduates of Partners in Policymaking training program and or our Youth Leadership Academy. I want you guys to just show us some love. Alumni, turn your cameras on. We say hello to you. I also, finally, I'm going to share my screen really quickly and start from the current slide and move it along. I simply wanted to share, before I turn it over to our Executive Director, Terry, for her comments and remarks, that we have, for the remainder of this fall quarter, we have 3 workshop sessions. So you will be getting invites through our constant contact. And we will be marketing our advocacy skills development workshop that will be held on October the 24th. All of our continuing education workshops are held on Fridays from 12 to 2 p.m. So the next one is advocacy skills development. We have the former executive director of the Virginia Board for People with Disabilities, Heidi Lawyer, facilitating, presenting that session. Following the October session on November the 21st, Friday, from 12 to 2, understanding the DD networks. And we're very excited about this session because we have all 3 executive directors, Terry Morgan from Virginia Board, Colleen Miller from Disability Law Center, and Parthy, somebody give me her last name, from VCU, Partnership for People with Disabilities. What's
Denora.
What is it, Terry?
Denora.
Parthy Denora. So we have all 3 executive directors who are going to be presenting this session, and it's going to be awesome. Just this week, we have confirmed the Virginia Department of Health, and we will be sharing more about what that title will be and who will be facilitating it. But we do know that Virginia Department of Health has agreed to provide the December 12th, Friday, December 12th session for us. We have had so many registrants today, and it has been our delight to serve you. Let me yield now to my Executive Director, Terry.
Hello, nice to see everybody. Jason, I have a smile on my face. This was really great. I can tell that you may have stopped being a support coordinator a number of years ago, but you have not lost the skill of talking to people, sharing information, breaking information down, and really demonstrating your compassion and care for the work that you do. It was really wonderful. So thank you. There was so much interest in this, and it was broad. It was families, people with disabilities, professionals, so many comments in the chat about how you helped them. Did we lose him? Where'd Jason go? About how you helped them gain information and knowledge, just really important.
Looked like he clicked off again. Maybe, Terry, you're right.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jason. And thank you all for joining today. I hope that this was as helpful to you as it was to me. And I will turn it back over to Penny. And of course, thank you, Dr. Penny and her team for coordinating this event.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry. I see some of our alumni, Kia and Denise. I see you, Catherine. I saw you. We have, it's 1:53 and we end at 2 o'clock. So I know Christine has already posted the poll. Want to thank Nia Harrison, our Director for Planning, Research, and Evaluations. I saw our colleague Jen here, our Deputy Director. Thank all of Virginia Board for supporting us and being here with us. And to all of our partners throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia, your presence really means a lot to us and supporting these continuing education sessions. I think I should say that these topics are selected each May by members of our training alumni. So we come together in a retreat and they tell us what their priority areas or topics or issues that they want to hear about in our state year. And so what we bring to you is based on their input and their support of these continuing education workshop sessions. With that, we have 6 minutes to spare, but I think that we are finished. I'm sorry, Terry.
So I just got an email from Jason and he said, oops, my Zoom closed again. Please tell everyone how honored I am to be a part of this conversation. So that was from Jason Perkins.
All right. Thank you, Terry. Thank you. If any of you have additional questions and you'd like to send them to us, you can use our training at vbpd.virginia.gov. So we have an email in our unit, Training and Alumni Development Programs, and you can send all questions there, and we certainly will still get them to Jason. We thank you again for coming and sharing this Friday afternoon with us. We bid all of you a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you on October 24th, 12 to 2, for our Advocacy Skills Development Workshop facilitated by Heidi Lawyer. Thank you.